Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into BlueCast. I am your host, Mouse. This is Oliver. I appreciate you guys joining us today as we dive deep into the woo-woo. Today we're going to be talking about setting intention and trip integration for your psychedelic experience. And then after that, I will be sharing a short little trip report about, a time when I used these things that I'm going to be talking about in the video here today. So why these two things? Why am I putting setting intention and trip integration into the same video? Well, it's one thing to trip with an intention, but really it's after the trip is over, that's when you're going to get, the benefits out of your intention. It's the work after the trip that's going to help you achieve whatever goals you've set as your intention. Like, you want to get over trauma, or going to be more organized, whatever it is. So we're going to talk about what to do before, during, and after a trip. And yeah, again, at the end, I'll share a little trip report about how I have been able to, live a happier, healthier life through psychedelics. So let's get started. Before you are tripping, you're going to set your intention. Now, it's important to note the difference between intention and expectation. So, you can have an intention to cure your ails, but if you expect that to just happen, it's probably not going to work out for you. There's actual like work that you need to do. So, it is an intention. It's not, you shouldn't be expecting your trip to go a certain way, because that's when things can get kind of squirrely or whatever. So, how do you set an intention? Well, it's really like, why are you doing the substance? You can just ask yourself that. Why am I doing this? And if it's just to, stare at pretty lights, that's fine. Nothing wrong with, recreational use. But if you're looking for, results out of your trip, like I said, if you want to get over trauma, or work through trauma, or improve the way that you relate to other people, that's your intention. You've set your intention. So what happens next is, how are you going to use the psychedelic experience to work on that intention? It's not enough to just say, I'm going to eat acid and, hopefully I'll be nicer to people after that. While you're tripping, there's some work that you need to do. So let's talk about, while you're tripping, what are you doing? So part of it is moving your focus to the intention. You're gonna want to try and be mindful of your intention during the trip experience, because it is distracting when you're on psychedelics. I mean, you can be on acid or mushrooms and suddenly realize that your popcorn ceiling is way more interesting than your intention that you had set, at that time. And potentially blow your intention on, staring at pretty lights or whatever it is. So keeping focused on your goal, and if you see yourself getting distracted from it, moving your intention back towards that is going to help you, get the most out of the experience. One of my friends will sometimes recommend to people to simply ask the substance out loud, like, for what you want. Like, say, I need to know how I can treat people better, or how can I be more organized, or why am I disorganized? Simply asking that out loud. I mean, we do dive deep into the woo woo here. I'm not telling you that anybody's going to answer you back, but something about saying it and expressing it can help your brain maybe like create a dialogue within yourself to help you come to a conclusion about, whatever it is your intention is. And while you're in this experience, you can take notes. It might be hard. Again, it's hard to go into a psychedelic experience and have like a plan. You can set it up to where the notepad is right by you and everything else, and then the acid kicks in and you've forgotten all about the notepad and you've forgotten all about your intention because you get distracted. So um, you know, if you're in a position where you're able to take notes, that's probably a really good thing. Again, it's hard to keep your focus sometimes when you're on especially higher doses of psychedelics. You've had your trip, you've been contemplating your intention. Maybe you were, sitting on your bed and meditating for the past 6 hours. You've come to some kind of conclusion, hopefully, or you've had epiphanies or light bulb moments or whatever, and you're coming down. What do you do now? You have not cured yourself. I mean, 99% of the time, this has not been a magic bullet to fix what ails you, like I said. But you maybe have a better idea of how to address these things that, took you to this place where you had a set intention and you had a psychedelic experience to like work on yourself. So it's important to process this experience. Um, some people will find that after doing mushrooms or whatever, that they feel great. And, the 3 days after they have their mushroom trip, they feel fucking amazing. And they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to do this again. Well, there's a problem with that because you can get caught in like trip loops. This is my experience, but if you don't wait long enough between trips and you're repeating your same trip experience, it will literally repeat and you'll have the same experience over and over. Now, the problem with that is let's say one of those times something goes awry and you have a bad trip. Well, now next time you go into your trip experience, it's a lot more likely that you're going to have a fucky time because you haven't given yourself the opportunity to integrate your previous experience. So, taking time between trips, not just waiting for your tolerance to go away, like not just waiting 2 weeks and then tripping again, is really going to help you integrate your experience. It's going to give you a healthier overall psychedelic experience. Um, I just think it's like healthier mentally for people to wait, until you feel that you've got a handle on your previous trip experience. And I mean, some trips, maybe are enigmatic and hard to figure out. In which case, I wouldn't really like trouble yourself. Like, I can't figure out my last acid trip. I can never trip again. I think that's a little overboard. But yeah, it is a very heavy experience. So, taking time between these trips is going to help and it's going to be healthier. That's all I got to say about that. And then, after you process it, it's a good idea to maybe just sit with it for a little while and see what other conclusions you can draw from it. Maybe don't go right back into a trip, as soon as you feel like you've adequately processed it. Give it a little bit extra time because sometimes things pop up where you're like, oh yeah, this is related to that, or just give it time. It's life's not a race. There's so much drugs in the world, and you are probably going to live a long life. So take your time and just use them healthily, whether it's recreationally or otherwise for self growth. So you've got all this knowledge now. You've integrated your experience. You've learned your stuff. You figured out what the drugs were trying to tell you, and now what? Well, that's not good enough yet. Still, you have to apply this stuff. You have to take what you've learned and apply it. You can know a bunch of stuff, but if you don't use any of it, you might as well not know anything. You have to take what you've learned from the experience and apply it. It's not going to do it for you. It's not suddenly going to change your habits. You actually are the person that has to change your habits. So part of this is a discipline, and in that way, you can use your same notebook that you used while you were tripping and kind of journal your experience. Week by week, find like ways to apply what you've learned in your experience and write about that in your journal, and then you can kind of log your progress. That might be helpful for people who are like dealing with more like serious ish, type issues, and are using psychedelics in that way. So another thing people talk about is if you get the message, hang up the phone. This is kind of what I was talking about with like trip loops. So if you keep having the same experience over and over, well, sure, the definition of insanity is the same thing happening and you expect different results. Well, if you take mushrooms or acid and you keep having the same negative experience, maybe hang up the phone. It's probably, that sounds like that's the end of the conversation that the LSD wants to have with you. Unfortunately for me, that is the case. I had a few negative LSD experiences, and I just don't feel comfortable returning to it. I may someday, but at this time, it's just, I don't feel that I need it. I got the message, and I was slightly happy and slightly unhappy to end the conversation. But it happens. I'm getting older. I gotta slow down a little bit. Another important thing to note is that not everything from your trip is going to be useful. There might be some things that you think at the time are really profound and amazing and incredibly powerful and resonant in your life, and then after you're not on acid, you're going to be like, what? I don't even know why that was important to me. Part of that, it is important to write notes if you're really going deep here in the woo woo, but sometimes there's just nonsense. I had a period of time where I was obsessed with the pyramids of Egypt, and I went through a whole lot of nonsense and wasted a lot of time, but it was fun. I had fun, so it doesn't really matter. And at the end of the day, the drug did not cure you. None of these substances, like I said, are magic bullets. So don't hand your pride over to the drug. You know, it takes hard work to change things about ourselves and to work through trauma. It's a lot of hard work. So, you know, say that the acid helped you. Don't say that the acid cured you. It gives people the wrong idea. But, give yourself some credit, because if you're doing this and you've used these substances to work through issues, you're literally like a fucking superhero. So, congratulations to you. So now that we're kind of nearing the end of what I really wanted to talk about as far as setting an intention and integrating your trip, I'll talk to you guys a little bit about my experience with this. I had a substance abuse problem that I was really trying to work on, and it was going on for like 2 years, and kind of heavy shit, and it was like kind of killing me. I was having this shit called rhabdomyolysis, which was fucking my kidneys up in a pretty serious way. So, it was doing damage to my body, and I felt like I was really like starting to put my life at risk. Like, I was concerned I was going to die. So, and at that time, I was really depressed, and I didn't really particularly care about living. Um, so, all this shit that it was doing to my body, I just kind of overlooked. But, one day I was like, there's still hope for me. Let's try and do a high dose of LSD, and then I'll just sit there and meditate. And at this time I was pretty well experienced with acid, but I was doing it, relatively recreationally as a whole. I never really had intentioned trip experiences before this to a large degree. I mean, I kind of like would meditate and stuff, but never with an intention in mind. So I did 600 micrograms of blotter acid, and just kind of sat in my room. And as it came up, I was just sitting there listening to music, and I kind of closed my eyes, and I was thinking about, what is a good reason for me to want to remain alive? sounds really sad that I wouldn't just have that available to me, but that's kind of where I was at the time. So I asked myself, why would I want to live? And suddenly I got these close-eyed visuals of this little like ball of light like way off in the distance, and I'm like, what's that? And in my close-eyed visuals, I traveled to it, and I saw that it resembled the so in string theory, there's this thing called the Calabi-Yau manifold. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I read this book by Brian Greene. He talks about string theory, and he talks about this shape. And for whatever reason, that's what I was picturing in my head. Um, and it was moving in a way where instinctually something about it told me that every time it moved, it was in a brand new shape that it had never been before. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. It's never repeating the same thing. It's always changing. It's always different. And I'm like, that's so interesting. I want to know more about this shape. Like, what is this? So in my head, I like zoomed in more, and I landed on this like wireframe, vaporwave-ish kind of landscape, and like it was this big field, and there were these wells that were in the ground, like Timmy fell down the well kind of wells, and they were just shooting this white energy out, and the energy that was coming out was white, but it was also like all of the colors, and it was just shooting all of this shit out, and I'm like, what in the fuck is all this shit? And I just had this feeling like, oh, this is all novelty. What I'm looking at is a novelty generation machine. This whole big Calabi-Yau manifold thing that I'm on is this ever-changing, energy mass that's always moving forward, and that it's brand new every time. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, God damn, that's what reality is. Reality is totally different from one moment to the next. So, depending on what you believe, it will never be like that ever again, and it has never been like that before. So, from one moment to the next, it's completely new. It gave me hope because I realized that every new moment is a new opportunity, and I felt like I was stuck, but really I wasn't stuck. I was looping. I was caught in a loop, and um, realizing that each moment is a new opportunity gave me an infinite number of opportunities to escape that loop. And thankfully, I was able to escape that loop, and I haven't used that particular substance that I was addicted to. I have not used that substance for 3.5, going on 4 years now. So that's pretty fucking good. I'm proud of myself, and I'm thankful to acid for helping me find that path. I am sad that I'm really not able to take it anymore. I went kind of ham after the quarantine, but that's another story for another day, maybe. But yeah, that's what I got for you guys this week. I hope this has been a good episode. I hope you like the vibes that I've got set up here for you guys. I'm really glad to have you with us. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, and please share these videos if you know people who are like into this sort of shit. Please share it with them, because that's really going to help me get out there and bring this content to more people. Because I do think I'm trying to help people with this channel, and that's really my main goal here. So I also want to invite you guys to our Discord community. All these links down there in the description will be there for you. We've also partnered up with a bunch of other cool psychedelic and entheogen related Discord servers. You can check our partner servers tab for that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Until next time, spread love.